People called me the people's president, but I was always just a scientist. My mission was to close the distance between a simple dream and a complex reality. On May 11, 1998, India conducted a nuclear test, and the world was shocked. In that silent desert, India's voice roared across the globe. The mission was built in complete secrecy. Behind that roar stood the quiet belief of thousands of nameless scientists. But the strength we showed that day was forged in my deepest failures. I was the 9th man when only 8 seats were available in the cockpit, rejected from my dream job. I sold newspapers to pay for my books. I watched my first great rocket fall into the sea. I take ownership of those failures, yet one idea kept us moving. Rejection is redirection. This is the story of how those failures forged the man people later called the Missile Man and the People's President, and how we tried to help India stand on the strength of its own science and its own minds. This isn't a story about religion or politics. It is about science, about dedication, and the relentless pursuit of self-reliance. I was born in Rameswaram, a humble island, in 1931. My father, Dzine, was a quiet, wise man, building and owning boats. My mother, Ashiyama, possessed a deep, inherent goodness. We lived in austerity, but the environment was rich in spiritual security. I sold newspapers to aid my family, my first experience of earning and early independence. The greatest influence wasn't a book, but the vast, boundless sky above the sea. My science teacher, Siva Subramanya Iyer, first spoke to me of flight. He saw the fire in me, urging me to break social barriers with knowledge. I realized that if I could master the principles that held those birds aloft, I could master my own destiny. This wasn't a philosophical question, it was an engineering problem I felt compelled to solve, a desire to give wings to the divine fire within. The pursuit of knowledge demanded a great sacrifice, leaving home. After graduating in physics at age 22 in 1954, I moved to Madras in 1955 to study aerospace engineering at the Madras Institute of Technology, MIT. The lack of funds was crippling. I remember my sister Zora mortgaging her gold bangles just to pay for my tuition. That sacrifice became my most sacred debt. I had to succeed, not just for myself, but for the faith she placed in me. At MIT, I poured myself into my final project. When I failed to meet the deadline, my professor threatened to revoke my scholarship. I worked non-stop, fueled by desperation, eventually impressing him. He taught me the brutal, non-negotiable lesson of deadlines and dedication. The journey from a fisherman's boat to an aircraft cockpit felt immense, but necessary. It was the only way to create a future where India designed and built its own strategic power. After years of studying, my singular dream was to be a fighter pilot. I applied to the Indian Air Force. I passed the exams, but when the results came, only 8 positions were available. I was ranked 9th. At the age of 26, my dream was shattered. I walked away, broken. I found myself at Rishikesh, desolate. There I met Swami Sivananda. He listened to my heartbreak. He looked at me and said, "Accept your destiny and go ahead with your life. You are not destined to be an Air Force pilot. You are destined to become a great man of science who will build the machines that others fly." That counsel completely redefined my mission. The failure to be a pilot was simply a redirect. A bigger national mission awaited me: to serve the nation with technology. Redirected, I joined the DRDO in 1960 at age 28. Then transferred to the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, in 1969 at age 37 under Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. He believed that if India was to be a modern nation, it must master space technology, despite the mockery. He appointed me project director of the SLV-III program, India's first satellite launch vehicle. We were under-resourced, under-experienced. We had to develop specialized materials, guidance systems, and complex electronics, all with minimal resources. We had to invent the wheel, the axle, and the road all at once. The point wasn't just success. The point was learning. We had to own the science to own our future. Everything built up to the critical launch moment. It was August 10th, 1979, at Sriharikota. My scientific intuition told me the computer's hold was a minor error. I overruled the computer. I gave the launch command. Minutes later, the rocket plunged into the Bay of Bengal, a total public failure. I was consumed by the mistake I had personally authorized. The next day, Dr. Dhawan, my chairman, took the podium and accepted full responsibility for the failure.
Esteemed colleagues, members of the press, today marks a significant
shielding
milestone
the entire
in our
team.
nation's journey.
That was my ultimate lesson in leadership. When we failed, he owned it. He taught me that leaders must absorb the failure and pass on the success. We worked relentlessly for exactly a year. Then, on July 18th, 1980, we tried again. SLV-III lifted off and performed flawlessly, placing the Rohini satellite into orbit. We had done it. That triumph was the foundation. The next mission had to be the security of India, because only strength respects strength. In my early 50s, I became chief executive of the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program, IGMDP. The goal was to build 5 indigenous missile systems simultaneously. This was a war against technological dependence. The most critical challenge was the re-entry technology for our long-range missile Agni, which had to survive temperatures up to 3,000 degrees Celsius from atmospheric friction. We couldn't import, we had to invent. We developed advanced carbon-carbon composites from scratch in Indian labs to withstand this inferno. We also needed accuracy. We developed our own indigenous navigation systems, including ring laser gyroscopes, RLGs, and flight computers. This wasn't just about targeting, it was about ensuring that India's strategic deterrent was fully autonomous, controlled by Indian intelligence, running on Indian code. Agni was the ultimate technological statement, a declaration of our ability to secure our future. I was called the Missile Man, a title I accepted knowing it represented the hard work of thousands of nameless scientists who achieved the impossible. My role in the 1998 nuclear tests, Pokhran-II, was the most intense and secretive period of my life. The security was a masterpiece of deception. We worked deep into the night, using simple camouflage, sand dunes rebuilt every morning, to evade the constant surveillance of US spy satellites. Even our team was designated as the Temple Construction Crew. The success instantly altered India's position.
Today, at 15:45 hours, India conducted 3 underground nuclear tests in the Pokhran-II. I warmly congratulate the scientists and engineers who have carried out these successful tests.
But it came at a great, immediate cost. The United States invoked the Glenn Amendment. We were subjected to a swift and brutal economic quarantine, blocking over $20 billion in aid and critical loans. They expected us to buckle under the financial duress. We faced the diplomatic and financial pressure head-on. We survived. We adapted. We proved that the ingenuity of the Indian scientist was more powerful than any international restriction. We had secured India's borders not just with a weapon, but with an indomitable national will. The measure of a nation is not its wealth, but its courage to stand alone. The relentless years took a toll. I had no wife, no children, no personal wealth. My home was the laboratory, my family was my team. I had no time for anything but the mission. In 2002, at age 70, I was elected as the 11th President of India. I didn't see the office as a political platform. I saw it as the ultimate mission to inspire the youth. I went from launching missiles to launching minds. I came to be known as the People's President because I was accessible, especially to students. My goal was simple: to instill self-confidence and ignite the latent potential of the nation. I believed that true freedom lay in the development of our human capital, powered by technology. The youth needed a vision to believe in, and I was determined to give them one. My presidency was dominated by Vision 2020, a blueprint for prosperity driven by knowledge. I traveled relentlessly, addressing millions of students. My journey proves that from the smallest of homes, a great future can be forged. I have spent my life building tools, rockets, missiles, books, and speeches, all aimed at empowering India. I learned to embrace the difficulty, because man needs difficulties in life because they are necessary to enjoy success. The true hero of this story is not me, the scientist. The hero is the youth of India, the ones who survive, who innovate, who reach for the stars and refuse to be defined by limits. My final act is to tell you this: be unique. The world does not remember the cautious. It remembers the ones who dared to be different. I'm just building the wings for their fire. I ask every student to take an oath. I will work with integrity and succeed with integrity. Maybe I'm a dreamer, but the people who build the future always are.
I'm only here and you're watching this now through sheer determination and hard work and passion devoting myself to this. If you're enjoying my story and this movie, just know it's not made by any company or big team. It's one guy, a laptop, months of research, AI tools, and a whole lot of heart. All we ask is that you subscribe to help us keep creating stories. It's free, takes 1 second, and helps keep us independent. Thanks.
Idea Alchemy Studio Productions.